Story 1. Video games, I liked them when they did not take as much time to complete. Now every game takes about 100 hours to beat. It is a lifestyle and I do not have time for it. Story 2. Modern popular music. I could not recognize the music of a modern performer if I heard it and, except in a few cases, would not recognize the performer either. Story 3. Surprisingly, video games. I had been a gamer longer than I can remember. One of my earliest memories is my dad holding me up to play a coin-operated video game in 1975. I invested in gaming personal computers and consoles into my 40s. Then, about 3 or 4 years ago, I lost interest. I would play a game and knew it was well made, but it was not fun anymore. They all started to seem the same, just a series of actions you have to learn to unlock new things, and it seemed really pointless to me. Every now and then, I download a phone game and play it to kill time for a few weeks, then I get bored. A few months ago, I bought Baldur's Gate 3 because I had heard great reviews and enjoyed the first 2 games a lot. I just could not get into it. I did not see a story or an adventure, just a series of things to click on to advance the game. I thought I would never outgrow video games, but I outgrew them at about 48. Story 4. Dating and relationship conversations often focus on questions like, what should I say? Or, does this make me sound desperate? Or, what does it mean when a man says? When you move beyond this, it becomes clear that no healthy relationships have resulted from that behavior. Story 5. Partying every night. It was a lot of fun, but I do not miss it. I was broke all the time, and I just do not bounce back as quickly as I used to when I was younger. If I go to a multi-day festival now, I am out of commission for almost a week afterward. Story 6. Always wanting the newest iPhone. I swear I keep mine until they break down now, so I do not have to learn a new one. Story 7. Validation in the workplace. There is no need to seek praise and approval. Now that I am the same age as other decision makers and have 20 years of experience in my career, I know what I need to do and how to get it done. If anything, it is now my responsibility to encourage and help the younger generation. Story 8. Snapchat is so cringe to me now. I still have years of memories saved on there though, so it is also nostalgic and I do miss those times. Story 9. Allowing my awful family to walk all over me. No is a complete sentence. They have no right to treat me like trash. Story 10. Being forced to accept someone else's religious or political beliefs is just a bunch of needless arguments getting in the way of progress as far as I am concerned. I want to look forward, not think about how the past could have been different if a different event or vote had occurred. Story 11. I believe I have aged out of the need to conform to external expectations, whether those are trends, social obligations, or even certain relationships. With time, I have learned to prioritize authenticity and invest my energy in what truly adds value and meaning to my life. Story 12. Allowing people, especially men I have feelings for, to treat me poorly just because I want them in my life. Story 13. I used to be able to sleep the stress away when I was younger. Cannot anymore. I guess life is more real now. Story 14. Worrying about what other people think. I'm in my 40s and I wish I had had this realization much earlier in my life because it is awesome. Story 15. I am a 19-year-old male. I used to go to parks with friends or just by myself to reflect. Now I get strange looks from mothers, and that is unpleasant. Story 16. Needing or wanting to be in a romantic relationship. One divorce was enough for me to be turned off the idea for good. Friendships and dogs are much more enjoyable. Story 17. Recreational drugs such as weed, alcohol, LSD, mushrooms, and nicotine. It's weird, the desire just kind of went away. Nothing felt the same and became boring or gave an unpleasant feeling. Has anyone else experienced this? Honestly, I feel way better sober. Story 18. Live music and concerts. I see clips on TikTok, and it seems awful to be surrounded by so many people screaming and singing instead of being able to hear the performer. The ticket prices are very high, and merchandise can cost $80 for a t-shirt. I would happily pay to attend events with a low-key, older crowd in a smaller venue where we can sit and actually enjoy the music. Story 19. The ability to have children ends with menopause, which will be official on September 9th. I dislike many aspects of it except for being child-free. I did it. Story 20. Consumerism. In my 20s, I got the nice car, the nice watch, and expensive clothes. In my 30s, I have leaned towards minimalism and just want peace. Story 21. The club. My brain still occasionally thinks it wants to go, particularly when I hear a really good song. But the body says, drinking until 4 a.m., queuing for drinks, dirty bathrooms, too many people who are likely also drunk, everyone at least 15 years younger than me, songs I don't even know, nowhere to sit, trying to get home at that time of the morning while hungry. Are you crazy? No, I can't do it. I like to be in bed by 10 p.m. Story 22. Caring about what people think of me. I have grown to the point where I basically do not care what anyone other than my wife and daughter thinks about me. Story 23. Multiplayer games, mainly shooters. Tired of working a 10-hour shift just to get defeated by someone half my age who plays the game like it is a full-time job every week. Not my idea of relaxing anymore. Story 24. Being able to hide under my mother's bed. I used to do that because my brother could not reach me. Now we have to talk things out like adults. But at least he stopped beating me up. I miss being small and able to hide. Now I am big, and my peach keeps knocking things over. Story 25. Pop culture is filled with posts about people whose faces and names I do not recognize. I cannot tell if they are actors, musicians, influencers, or others. There are so many new celebrities. Story 26. Sleeping on anything but a proper bed is not an option for me. No more sofa beds, couches, or air mattresses. I am 42 years old. If I cannot sleep in a bed, I will not go on the trip. Story 27. Going to the movie theater. Unless it is a movie I am very excited to see, I will definitely fall asleep, especially now that most theaters have very comfortable recliner chairs. Story 28. New music, new movies, new television shows. Watching the news. Willing to listen to other people's opinions. I do not impose mine on them. Story 29. Giving no importance. I no longer care or concern myself with anything anyone else says or thinks. Not that I cared much before, but now I just give zero concern. Story 30. For me, it is life. I believe mine has been decent, and I am not afraid to leave. I am not doing it myself, just waiting for my number to be called. Story 31. I am just more inclined to say no to things as I get older. I am valuing my time more and more, and I have found that when you really bring it all in and focus on yourself and what you are passionate about first, the rest of your life tends to fall into place in a way that aligns truer to your soul. Story 32. A so-called friend who gets super jealous when you spend time with another friend who genuinely is in a horrible situation and sees it as a competition. I don't have time for you to try and manipulate me by saying my problems are worse than hers just because you need or want attention all the time. Grow up. That is the fastest way to lose my friendship, other than betraying me. Story 33. I am 35 and realized this year that many of the cute clothing styles I have worn for the last 20 years are no longer appropriate for someone my age. Story 34. Being a good person and respecting my backstabbing relatives? No, after what they have done to my mother and younger sibling. My mother might still tolerate them, but I will not. Story 35. I have aged out of dramatic people, poor quality food and clothing, and walking when you feel unwell. I am also tired of bad attitudes and lack of patience from employers. Story 36. This is random, but I was looking through some old pictures the other day. I used to wear a backwards snapback hat often in the summer or whenever. I don't know when I subconsciously decided to stop, but I think one day I just stopped wearing the backwards hat and never did it again. I was about 31. I had to accept that I couldn't pull it off anymore. It was a good run. Story 37. Pulling an all-nighter and still functioning the next day used to be possible. Now, it takes me 3 business days to recover. Story 38. Festivals, but then again I did not like them when I was 20. That is when I stopped going. The people, not the music. Story 39. Playing Roblox is not as fun as it used to be because there are too many predators there now. Story 40. Try harding video games. No, I don't want to play a full squad in a first-person shooter. I'm never going to play ranked games, and I'm definitely not going back and forth with trolls in an online game. I have a life, a full-time job, and bills. I play games to relax and have fun, not to deal with overly competitive behavior. Story 41. Going to family functions and socializing with relatives. Everyone in my extended family, except for my grandmother, has shown themselves to be insincere by using the "we're family and it is in our Hispanic culture to care for one another" card as a way to be nosy about one's personal life. Story 42. Professional sports. I grew up in a family of ball players, and we always followed sports as an everyday thing. Nowadays, I don't even turn it on. Story 43. Social media. I always wondered why I was more creative and comfortable being myself when social media was not as prominent. I realized that the cycle of small dopamine hits and seeing my friends live an always happy life online took control away from me. Story 44. Caring about politics. I used to care deeply about it. Now I do not care at all about these people and their games. Very few of them care, especially at the national level. Story 45. Needing to get drunk to have a good time. I got to see my two favorite bands co-headline a concert completely sober from alcohol. Kava with water only. I enjoyed myself immensely, crowd surfed for the first time, and remember every beautiful moment. No alcohol needed and no hangover the next day. Story 46. Being a girl. No, but seriously, I think as a kid I truly was a girl, but as I got older, my brain went no, forget that. And now I am a man. Genuine. Story 47. The time span for a shave has changed. In high school, it used to be every 2 weeks. I am 20 years old now, and I shave every 3 or 4 days. Story 48. I'd like to think I've worked on progressing past my internal bias, specifically toward music. I've discovered many things I would have otherwise never tried that I love and needed to hear. I don't really use social media outside of Reddit for 5 minutes, and it's been so freeing to just like what I like. I have no shame in what I like to listen to anymore. I don't care if it's cringy or basic or any other label. I just like it, and I like that for myself. Story 49. Talking to online strangers for no real reason. I used to do it a lot in my late teens, nonstop, even after Tumblr shut down. I genuinely had no reason, but I did it all the time in video games and random social media. Arguably, you can still do it today in platforms like Roblox and VR chat. People have changed in the online space, but I don't blame them. The newer generation is almost impossible to talk to, and my generation either doesn't care anymore or is often hateful. I understand this, but I remember making friends overseas out of thin air. Those days are long gone. Story 50. Playing video games mostly. I used to be a huge gamer. I am in my 40s now and barely have time to think about gaming, much less play a game. At times, I wish I had time to sit down and play. I would get lost for days at a time. I was a huge World of Warcraft player during its first few years, but life has become more about dancing pixels on the screen. I play casual games sometimes, but I haven't felt the compulsion to play much. Story 51. Youthful ignorance of bigger problems like global politics. I am not even old enough to vote yet. Why can't I just write my stories without worrying about my country imploding from the inside? Story 52. Watching a movie in the theater. I am extremely excited to see it on opening night. I am always working on Friday nights, so I go on my days off now. I am not taking time off just to see a movie. Story 53. Video games are not something I dislike, but I find it difficult to focus enough to be truly excited about them. I remember when I was a child, playing all night and feeling amazed. If I have to force myself to try to enjoy them, then it is wasted energy. Story 54. Caring about what others think of me is not important. I want to dress up? It is for me. I want to put makeup on? It is for me. I want to eat a McNugget because it tastes good? It is for me. As long as I am healthy and in good spirits, I have absolutely no desire to live up to the societal norm. Story 55. Getting less than 8 hours of sleep. I mostly get 5 to 7 hours, but I do not feel okay unless I get 8 hours or more. Story 56. Staying at hostels. My wife and I went from staying in the hostel dormitory rooms to the hostel private rooms. For our next vacation, we are staying in hotels. I searched if I was too old to stay in a hostel, and all the results said no, it is fine. Even if you are in your late 20s, you can stay in a hostel. I am 41, so it is time. Story 57. I went to a park in my new town, and there was a 3-story slide. I walked right past everyone because all the kids were sitting around playing on phones, and I wanted to go down the big slide. So I climbed all the way up and slid down. When I came out the bottom, all the moms sitting next to their kids, who were on their phones, looked up at me with neutral expressions. I then climbed up and went down the 2-story slide next door. When I came out the bottom, they all rolled their eyes and got up to leave. I played on the swing for several minutes before eventually leaving as well. I thought maybe it was because I'm new to the area or because of my race. But I tried going back to the park months later without playing on the playground, and people waved at me and stayed seated, playing on their phones if I did the same as the adults. Then I tried coming back to the park and playing on the slides when no one else was using them. Generally, I don't go on the playground if kids are already there, and I will get off if kids come into the park and start playing, since I know it was made for them. The other people left quickly. Long story short, I learned I'm too old to play on the playground alone without making people uncomfortable. Story 58. Social media. I am not bothered with Instagram, Facebook, and others anymore. I just love my life and enjoy time with family and friends in real life. Story 59. Barbies and other dolls, as well as drama, being around people who are drinking, and I'm learning not to be a shrinking violet anymore. Story 60. Watching football. I had a season ticket at Old Trafford for 40 years. I gave it up last year and have not watched a game since. I much prefer rugby or the National Football League. Story 61. Long lines and grocery shopping. I turned in my shopper's card. My youngest child and my wife always tell me how I would not be able to deal with the way people currently shop for groceries. It is very competitive out there. Story 62. Staying up all night and sleeping all day. I cannot do it anymore at 35. I used to love it and was quite good at staying up for long periods and then crashing. It is just not worth it anymore. Story 63. Roblox. I used to play that game when I was 12 to 13 years old, but now I just cannot because everyone there is a child, and that makes me feel old and jobless. Story 64. Skateboarding. I have loved it since I was 10. I am 51 now, and I cannot accept getting hurt for a silly trick I have probably done a million times before. I do not bounce like I did when I was younger. Story 65. South Park. When the show goes for random silliness, I still laugh when I see a clip of it. However, when it tries to be smart satire with something meaningful to say, it becomes unbearably hollow and superficial. It offers lowest common denominator observations about current events. It feels like listening to a 16-year-old who thinks he has cracked the code by being contrarian. Sometimes he might have a point, but most of the time it just sounds like he does. When corrected, he simply pats himself on the back for being smarter and moves on. Still, good job on the MAGA trolling. I wish you had shown that anti-Trump energy earlier and not just when he threatened to inconvenience you financially. Maybe you could have even pulled a manberpig and apologized for telling a whole generation that voting is for morons. But since nobody else in your position is challenging Trump like that, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.